Hi, family. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I'm joined today by my brother-in-law, who's been here for 20 years, So I hope you like the content today. If you do, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and share. And while you're doing that, reminds me of a little joke that I heard. Young man came to his father. He says, "Father, I would like to know why I feel incomplete. I have a life of incomplete feelings, and I like it to be a life of finishing." And the father looked up to the son, and after all of his work, he said, "Son, a man often feels incomplete when he's not married. And once he's married, he's finished." I tried to save him. So, that being said, don't tell my sister. Okay, so I'm very happy to hear from you guys today. His name is Mr. Lodge. I call him Pops. So, effectively, I hope that you guys enjoy the content. Today, we want to talk to you about Africa, the diaspora, returning to the continent. You know, from my previous videos, it's been my sentiment to have African Americans at least visit the continent if you do nothing else. And my brother-in-law, of course, you can recognize Jamaican attire.
Wagwan.
One. And I would like to get his viewpoint on it. So let me ask you something. Do you think that African Americans or the African diaspora and what it is now in the new scramble for Africa is being left out of the loop, where the Chinese are trying to take it financially, the Indians, even the U.S. Do you think that we are getting a misrepresentation of it?
Yeah, man. True thing, because it's like this. They're pushing what you call a false narrative. Mm-hmm. And when we're talking about narrative, we're talking about a storyline, Because all through what they call a history, they push a false narrative, because that's his story about us, what they did to us. Mm-hmm. So now, you want to say the black dysphoria, because I want to say black because it encompasses all our people of color will come originate out of Africa. Yeah. Because even the Chinese man, he was black first out of Africa. It's just through, all the centuries, them changed color by DNA and all of that. But still, what going right now is that Africa have what you call all the resources in the world that is needed by the world to survive. So Africa as a continent can be self-sufficient. However, all these centuries, you have the Europeans and all of them are scrambled to take over Africa, divide up Africa, and colonize Africa. To the point where they take out your national resources, your natural resources get taken, and then they even take the people and ship them off to go work somewhere else.
What?
And then, 1 minute there, and then change up the storyline to keep us passive and not knowing what they're doing until it's done. Mm-hmm. So it's like a deceit,
Yeah.
And they don't want us to be involved because they don't want us to disrupt their plans and to tell the truth. But the truth is, yes, right now China and the other countries, including the US, is getting ready to reap and take what Africa have and what belong to Africa without the people benefiting from it. In other words, the black people, we people. And just like they did to our ancestors.
Yeah. So, I think that, we should know one thing very important, that we have an indigenous right to be there, and you have an indigenous right to claim a right of abode and visit the continent and reap some of these benefits. Don't let them take advantage of a situation that is inherently yours. But, you know, and my second talking point of view to my brother-in-law is that, do you think that our history or the lack of teaching thereof has played, in a way, an important role in the way we view Africa? You know, because the continent often gets misrepresented to us in this country. So a lot of us don't know what Africa looks like or African people are like. You know, I talk to about 3,000. So, and I do a lot of research. But do you think that the fact that historically we're not given a chance to even view it as a great place because of the teaching which goes on in our institutions?
Yeah, definitely. You know, because it go back to what I said from the start. You know, misrepresentation. They want to control our minds. It's almost like brainwashing us to let us say, listen, where you come from ain't no good. That's why we come and took you and put you in a place that is better for you. But that's a lie. Africa is one of the greatest civilization that there was. Because remember now, the Egyptians then were Africans. They were not Caucasians like them, I'm going to tell you. In them history book.
Oh, yeah.
So what they did was they took our history and turn it around and strike out the good things and just highlight the bad things. And that's what they're doing today also. They're taking Africa and make it look like Africa is unproductive and they have no resources that the people can use and they're poor, and the only help for Africa is if us as the great European powers or the powers that be from the first world go in there and help to develop Africa. Nah, that's not so. When they come in is because they want something and they're going to take it under the cover of deceitfulness. So the image we get, like say when you're in living in America or Canada or England or wherever you live, as a black man, as a black woman, as a diasporian from the descendants of Africa, we get the images that these people in Africa is poor and destitute, so we need to stay where we are and we need to let the Europeans do what they do to help our country. No, they're robbing our continent. They're just like how they robbed our ancestors, they're robbing our people over there of their riches, the natural resources.
You know, and this is a very important point too. Not only are they getting our resources or taking the resources that are on the continent, my main problem is that you're being left out the opportunity to use the knowledge that we have to be able to develop the continent and be not only a developer, but an actual part of the foundations in the building of Africa. Because, you know, the U.S. has written down already that Africa is a continent of the future. For you to believe anything else, you would be naive. And do you think that because there's such a disconnect from the African culture by African Americans and people in the diaspora, do you think that's the reason that they won't take advantage and go to the continent or visit the continent or view it even as?
Yes, because we have such a negative image of Africa that is pushed to us by the social media and the television, the news programs and so forth, that hey, you need to stay in the first world countries and enjoy your good life, drive your luxury car, keep your good job, and just stay in your status quo. Stay right there. But Africa, okay, has the resources. But when they took from Africa way back, during that, if I may say, the slave trade.
Yeah, okay.
Out of the descendants of those enslaved Africans came scientists, developers and great inventors that helped to build America into what America is right now. Because all the great ideas that we invented to make industry in America better, they were patented by the masters of the slaves that invented those technologies.
Oh yeah,
And it is
definitely.
always, if you read and research, it is always a black man that come up with an invention, and then it is given over into industry, and that black man is not mentioned again.
And you know, for your personal education on what my brother-in-law just said, you can research this on another video on YouTube that shows where black scientists were left out of a lot of their own ideas, and a lot of their ideas were stolen and patented. But in my final closing to this video, I'd like to ask you, so you know, you're from Jamaica, we know.
Yeah, man.
We're good.
Born and grew up.
Born and grew up. So you grew up in exactly where, I know you've told me, but.
Well, yeah, well, you want to see me come from different aspect of Jamaica, you know? Like, I was born in the rural area. I was born in the mountains, in the high plateaus.
Okay.
Yeah, I was born on a former plantation. But as a boy, I grew up in a rural part of Jamaica, another rural part of Jamaica, where, you know, I was able to enjoy like the lush landscape, the rivers, the fruit trees and so forth.
Yes.
And, you know, I guess you could say a good life.
So
then I moved to Kingston.
Okay, you moved to Kingston.
Kingston, Jamaica.
Okay.
That's the rough city.
Yeah.
It's almost like a mini New York City.
Did it? So let me ask you this, saying that. So when I asked you to explain, you know, where you were from in Jamaica as a diasporan. So growing up, what was your thoughts or perceptions on Africa? Like, I'm African American, so growing up, my first thoughts and my first representation of Africa to me was that, oh, you know, the country's poor, it's wild, it's untamed, or there's huts. You know, I had a real vision of Africa that there's nothing there, you know, and it wasn't until I got a lot older, I'm like, man, you know, there's a lot of things there, and a lot of pretty women, but that's for another time. But you know, this was a very gross misrepresentation of the continent, of the cultures, of the places, to where other countries were presented to me, like France and London and Britain and Scotland. You know, you could look at they show all the beautiful areas. You know, one of the most beautiful aspects of Africa is Niagara Falls, which I don't want to get into that name, but I won't get into that. But Niagara Falls, Elizabeth Falls, sorry. Mm-hmm. And we knew about Niagara Falls in America, but I didn't even know that there's an Elizabeth Falls in Africa. It is beautiful, you know. So how was it presented to you as a Jamaican growing up?
Well, we have okay. Well, first of all, Jamaica was under the British system, so we have like a British system of education. But however, growing up as a boy, we were independent from England, and they became to the point where they developed like a pro-black education system.
Okay.
We were taught about our African ancestors and how life was in Africa before the Europeans got there and disrupted the African lifestyle. See, and that was as a boy of around 10 years old.
Yeah.
You know, because our education started early. We started learning the real hard stuff from 10 years old on up.
Yeah.
So by 16, you're ready to hit college and keep it moving.
Yeah.
But we learned about what you call the Dravidian race and the Aryan race way back in high school. And for all those that don't understand what I'm saying, is the Dravidian race is basically the name they give to the black races, and the Aryan was what they give to the Caucasian races. And from there, everything else was mixed up. But that information and that knowledge we acquired from an early age. And we also learned about the Ethiopia and the other different countries and the tribes of Africa, because Jamaica was predominantly populated by descendants from the Ashanti tribe and from the Igbo tribe and from the Boa and the Fulani people.
Yes.
And so a lot of the culture still remained with the people. So even though it was not in books, it was in our heads because of the verbal tradition that was handed down from our parents. You know, like my great-great-grandmother, she was Ashanti.
Yeah.
And on the other side of my family tree, there was Igbo.
Igbo, Nigeria.
So what they did was they mixed the two tribes together predominantly to get what they call a more passive people. But everybody knows Jamaicans ain't passive.
Well,
you don't know how this is going.
Yeah,
You don't know how
I know a lot of Jamaicans.
You know?
But you know, anytime you grow up in a rough city like Kingston, you know, of course you're gonna develop a survival instinct. You know, like some parts of America, people don't think America's soft, and you know, make no mistakes, there's some very rough areas in the city. But you know, in closing, I've told you in my previous videos that our history begins way before the civil rights movement. Our history begins way before slavery. Our history begins way before the European ever stepped into a home, before he put on a shoe, before he read a book, or before he could even write letters. And you must find it imperative that if you do nothing else, look up the Tariq al-Fatash, the Tariq al-Fadan, which saved our history for us, which salvaged a lot of what African Americans or people in the diaspora now know today, and explains the tribes and where we came from during that period. But more than that, visit the continent. You know, I'm glad, family, we had a chance to talk a little bit longer today. I'm glad I had a chance to visit with my brother-in-law.
Yeah, man.
And I hope that you will join me. If you have any comments, don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section. As always, please like, subscribe, and share this content. You know, let's let everybody know that there are African Americans, there are African Jamaicans, there are people in the diaspora
all over the place
that support a movement. But I do want to put one disclaimer in here before I go. My content, so that it is not misconstrued, is not a racist view. We are not in any way saying that we prefer one race over the next race, or we don't like Europeans. I don't want to get that in a misrepresentation here. But what we are saying is that because we have been denied a history by a select group, it is time for the people of the complexions to have a different view and better look at who they were in the world scope. So until the next time we get to talk, may God bless you, may He keep you always. Thank you.
Yeah, man. God bless.
Thank you.